October 27th, 2025. A mother sits at a stoplight in the middle of the afternoon, her young son buckled in beside her. In seconds, a car pulls up, gunfire erupts. She's hit multiple times in the abdomen. Her little boy watches his mom die, untouched by the bullets but forever changed. Her name was Arianna Bosney, known to some as G.Ari, an aspiring rapper from Normal, Illinois, trying to make it in Chicago's unforgiving streets. She was 26 years old, and 2 days before her murder, another rapper connected to her world was gunned down in broad daylight. THF BayZoo, a drill artist tied to Lil Durk's crew. Now whispers flood the internet claiming Ariana gave up BayZoo's location and paid the ultimate price. Was she a snitch who sealed her own fate? Or just another innocent caught in a cycle of retaliation she never started? If you're already hooked and you want the full truth on cases like this that demand answers, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button, smash subscribe to Crime Lab Report, and ring that bell hard because every notification you miss means stories like Ariana stay buried longer than they should. We're pulling back the curtain on the real, the raw, and the unfiltered, so don't let this one slip by. Let's rewind. Arianna Bosney wasn't just a statistic or a headline. She was a 26-year-old woman with dreams, a kid to raise, and a passion for music that drove her into one of the most dangerous creative scenes in America, Chicago drill rap. Born and raised in Normal, Illinois, a modest town about 2 hours southwest of Chicago, Ariana tried to carve out her own lane as G.Ari. Normal isn't exactly known for street violence or gang culture. It's a college town, home to Illinois State University, relatively quiet compared to the chaos brewing in Chicago's South Side neighborhoods. But like so many young artists from smaller cities, Ariana was drawn to the bright lights and brutal reality of Chicago's music world, where talent can get you noticed but the wrong connection can get you killed. She had a son, still a minor, whose father was locked up on multiple murder convictions. That detail alone tells you the kind of environment Ariana was navigating, ties to people deeply embedded in street life, whether she wanted them or not. Being a single mom trying to chase a music career while connected, even indirectly, to convicted killers put her in a precarious position. Friends and family described her as warm, kind, full of infectious energy. She wasn't known as a troublemaker. She was trying to make something of herself, to give her son a better future. But in Chicago, your associations can define you faster than your intentions ever will. Now, let's talk about where this all went down. October 27th, 2025, around 5 in the evening. Ariana was sitting in her car near McDonald's in the 7600 block of South Vincennes Avenue, right on the edge of West Chatham and Greater Grand Crossing. If you don't know Chicago, those neighborhoods sit on the South Side, areas that have seen waves of violence for decades, caught in crossfire gang disputes that stretch back generations. It's not the kind of place you linger if you don't belong, and even if you do, you keep your head on a swivel. Ariana was stopped at a traffic light, her son sitting right there next to her in the car. Think about that for a second. A normal Monday afternoon, probably running errands, maybe grabbing food, doing mom things. Then another vehicle rolls up. No warning, no chance to react. Somebody inside opens fire and bullets tear through her car, striking Ariana multiple times in the abdomen. Her son, somehow miraculously, wasn't hit. Not a scratch on him physically. But imagine what that child saw. Imagine what he heard. The sound of gunfire, his mother's screams or silence, the smell of gunpowder, blood everywhere. That's trauma that doesn't heal, the kind that therapists spend years trying to unpack. And he had to sit there, helpless, while his mom fought for her life. Witnesses nearby heard the shots and called 911. Paramedics rushed to the scene and found Ariana critically wounded, barely clinging to life. They got her into an ambulance and raced her to the University of Chicago Medical Center, one of the best trauma centers in the city. The doctors and nurses there see gunshot victims daily, and they fought hard to save her. But the damage was too severe. Arianna Bosney was pronounced dead at the hospital, 26 years old, gone. Her son left without a mother, her family shattered. And Chicago added another name to its growing list of homicide victims in 2025. Now here's where things get murky, and you need to pay close attention because this is where the streets started talking. 2 days before Ariana was killed, on October 25th, 2025, another shooting went down that sent shockwaves through Chicago's drill rap community. His name was Devonshire Collier, but if you followed Chicago drill music at all, you knew him as THF BayZoo. 35 years old, a long-time fixture in the scene, and a close associate of Lil Durk, one of the biggest names in drill rap today. BayZoo wasn't just some random rapper. He had history, he had respect, and he had enemies. On that Saturday afternoon around 3 o'clock, BayZoo was in Little Village, a predominantly Mexican-American neighborhood on Chicago's west side, and an auto parts shop in the 3100 block of South St. Louis Avenue. He wasn't alone. He had 2 bodyguards with him because when you're somebody like BayZoo, you don't move without protection. But protection doesn't always mean safety. 2 armed men approached the group in the parking lot and opened fire. Both bodyguards were hit and injured but survived. BayZoo took multiple bullets and was rushed to Mount Sinai Hospital. Early Sunday morning, he died from his wounds. So you got 2 shootings, 2 murders, happening within 48 hours. One victim is a well-known drill rapper with deep ties to one of the genre's biggest stars. The other is an aspiring artist, a mother, somebody still trying to break through. On the surface, maybe they seem unrelated. Different neighborhoods, different circumstances, different levels of fame. But the streets don't operate on coincidence. And almost immediately after Ariana's death, social media exploded with speculation. Bloggers, commentators, people claiming inside knowledge started saying the same thing. Ariana dropped BayZoo's location. She gave up where he was, and that information got him killed. And now, the theory went, she was murdered in retaliation. Let me ask you something. How much weight do you put on rumors versus facts? Because right now, that's all we're dealing with when it comes to this alleged connection. Speculation, street talk, blogger theories. Not a single official source, not one police statement, has confirmed that Arianna Bosney had anything to do with THF BayZoo's murder. But in Chicago's drill scene, perception is reality. Once the streets decide you're a snitch, once that label gets attached to your name, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. The damage is done. And sometimes that damage is fatal. The timing is what makes people suspicious. BayZoo gets killed on Saturday. Ariana gets killed on Monday. 2 days apart, both connected, even loosely, to the same world. BayZoo was part of THF Terror House family, a faction that's been deep in Chicago's gang wars for years. He ran with Lil Durk's crew, the OTF camp, only the family. These aren't just music labels or friend groups. These are networks of people whose beefs span decades, whose losses pile up year after year, whose music is basically a real-time diary of street warfare. And when someone in that circle gets murdered, people don't wait for police reports or court evidence. They start connecting dots themselves, and they act. So where did this rumor even come from? Nobody knows for sure. Some say it started on Instagram Live. Others claim it came from Discord servers or private group chats where Chicago street watchers trade information. A few bloggers ran with the story hard, putting Ariana's face next to BayZoo's, drawing lines between the 2 murders like they were breaking some huge investigative story. But ask yourself this. If Ariana really gave up BayZoo's location, who did she give it to? Why would she even have that information? What was her motive? Was she beefing with him? Was she working with his enemies? Or is this just another case of the internet doing what it does best, creating a narrative out of thin air because it makes for a good story? Here's what we do know. Ariana had a child with someone currently serving time for multiple murders. That means she had ties, whether she wanted them or not, to people involved in serious street activity. Maybe she knew things. Maybe she heard things. Maybe she was in circles where information like someone's whereabouts could end up in the wrong hands, intentionally or not. But knowing something and actively snitching are 2 very different things. You could overhear a conversation, post something innocent on social media, or mention a detail in passing that someone else uses for violence. Does that make you responsible? Does that make you a target? BayZoo's murder itself tells us something about how calculated his killing was. He was at an auto parts shop in Little Village, not his usual neighborhood. Somebody knew he'd be there. Somebody knew the exact time and place. That level of precision doesn't come from random chance. It comes from intelligence, from someone watching, waiting, or being tipped off. 2 gunmen approached him and his bodyguards in broad daylight and executed the hit. That's bold. That's planned. And if someone did provide that location, you better believe the people who lost BayZoo would want revenge. Fast, brutal, public. Now think about Arianna's murder for a minute. She's at a stoplight in the middle of the afternoon with her kid in the car. Whoever killed her didn't care about witnesses, didn't care about the child sitting right there, didn't care about cameras or people calling the police. That's the kind of shooting that happens when somebody wants to send a message, when the goal isn't just to kill, but to make a point. And if the streets believed Ariana was responsible for BayZoo's death, even partially, that would explain the brazenness of it, the lack of hesitation, the fact that they did it in broad daylight with her son present. Because in that world, snitching is the ultimate betrayal, and the punishment is death. But here's where we need to pump the brakes and separate emotion from evidence. As of right now, November 1st, 2025, the Chicago Police Department has not made a single arrest in either case. Not for BayZoo's murder. Not for Arianna's murder. No suspects named publicly. No press conferences announcing breakthroughs. No official connection drawn between the 2 shootings. The investigations are active, sure, but they're also quiet. And anyone who's followed Chicago crime knows that quiet investigations can mean one of 2 things. Either detectives are working angles they don't want to reveal yet, or they've hit a wall and don't have much to go on. Let's talk about what makes these cases so difficult to solve. Chicago has a massive problem with witness cooperation. People don't talk to police. They don't testify. They don't come forward even when they've seen everything because they know what happens to snitches in neighborhoods where retribution is swift and certain. So even if there were witnesses to Arianna's shooting, even if someone saw the car that pulled up or recognized the shooters, getting them to go on record is nearly impossible. Same with BayZoo's murder. 2 bodyguards survived that shooting. They were right there. They saw who did it. But do you think they're cooperating with investigators? Do you think they're sitting down for interviews and pointing fingers? Not likely, because in their world, you handle your own business. You don't call the cops. You retaliate. Then there's the issue of evidence. Surveillance cameras are everywhere in Chicago, especially near businesses like that McDonald's where Ariana was killed or the auto part shop where BayZoo died. But camera footage only helps if you can identify the people in it. And if those people are smart, they're wearing masks, hoodies, gloves. They're using stolen cars or vehicles with fake plates. They're disposing of weapons immediately. And even if police recover shell casings or ballistic evidence, matching that to a specific gun requires having the gun in the first place, which means making an arrest, which takes us back to the witness cooperation problem. You're probably wondering what Arianna's family has said about all this. Her loved ones are devastated, obviously. They describe her as someone full of life, someone who was kind and warm and dedicated to her music and her son. They haven't publicly addressed the rumors about her allegedly giving up BayZoo's location. Maybe they don't believe it. Maybe they're protecting her memory. Or maybe they just don't know what to say when the internet has already convicted their daughter, their sister, their friend in the court of public opinion, without a shred of proof. And what about BayZoo Circle? The people who lost him? Lil Durk himself is locked up right now, sitting in the MDC Los Angeles Detention Center awaiting trial on federal charges related to a 2022 murder-for-hire case. His trial got pushed to January 2026. So he's not out here orchestrating anything directly. But OTF, his crew, they're still active. THF BayZoo said they're still in the streets. And when one of their own gets murdered, especially someone with BayZoo's status and history, you better believe they're looking for answers and accountability. Whether that accountability came in the form of Arianna's murder, we may never know for certain unless someone talks or gets caught. Here's the thing that should make you pause. BayZoo wasn't some innocent bystander in Chicago's violence. Back in 2009, he was charged with the murder of 21-year-old Dominic Barnes. He went to trial in 2017 and was acquitted by a Cook County jury. In 2018, he and the late King Von, another Chicago drill legend who was shot and killed in 2020, released a music video called Beat That Body celebrating their acquittals on murder charges. So BayZoo had been through the system. He'd beaten a body. He knew how the game worked. He had enemies who remembered what he allegedly did, who held grudges, who waited years for the right moment to strike. His murder could have been retaliation for something that happened a decade ago. It could have been tied to current beefs. It could have been completely unrelated to Ariana. We just don't know. What we do know is that Ariana's son is now without both parents. His father is serving life for murder. His mother was gunned down in front of him. That child is going to grow up with a level of trauma most people can't even imagine. Who's raising him now? What kind of support system does he have? What's his future look like when violence has already stolen everything from him before he even hit puberty? These are the questions that don't get asked enough when we talk about street violence. We focus on the shooters and the victims, but we forget about the collateral damage, the kids left behind, the families torn apart, the generational cycles of pain that just keep repeating. Chicago has seen this pattern over and over. Lil Durk alone has lost multiple people close to him over the past decade. His manager, Uchenna Ejina, known as Chino, was murdered in 2015. King Von, his protege and close friend, was killed in Atlanta in 2020. His own brother was shot dead in 2021. Now, BayZoo in 2025. That's 4 people in 10 years, all connected to the same circle, all taken by gun violence. And for every high-profile name that makes headlines, there are dozens more who die in the same neighborhoods for the same reasons without anyone outside their block ever knowing their names. Ariana was on the cusp of that divide. Not famous enough for mainstream news to care, but connected enough for her death to ripple through a specific community. So where does the investigation go from here? Chicago police detectives are still working both cases. They're reviewing surveillance footage, interviewing potential witnesses, analyzing ballistic evidence, trying to build timelines and establish motives. But without cooperation from the communities most affected, without people willing to come forward and tell the truth, these cases could easily go cold. They could join the thousands of unsolved murders in Chicago's files, cases where everyone on the street knows who did it, but no one will say it out loud, where justice becomes a fantasy because fear and loyalty outweigh everything else.